Billy Eichner. This past season was the fourth season of Billy on the Street and the first season of your Hulu series, Difficult People. Now, Difficult People is your first leading role in a sitcom. So how did that opportunity come about?
Actually, Julie Klausner, who created that show and is the co-star of that show and writes most of it, was a writer on Billy on the Street for all the first four seasons up until right now. And we developed a friendship based on our working relationship. And I think she was inspired by that. And in terms of Amy Poehler, who's the executive producer, one of the executive producers on that show, Amy and I had worked together on Parks and Recreation, which I was on, and also Amy had done Billy on the Street a couple of times. So we all were tied together in different ways. Amy and Julie had a relationship going back a number of years from the improv comedy world and Upright Citizens Brigade. So we were all mutual friends, fans. Julie brought it to me when she was working on the pilot, and I immediately signed on.
Yeah, does having that prior working relationship and friendships with the people involved make it a much easier experience on set filming?
For sure, yeah. Julie and I have a shorthand, really. We find a lot of the same things funny. We both grew up in the New York area, both like real pop culture infatuated children, but attracted to the same people in pop culture, not completely, but a lot of our obsessions, a lot of the things that interested us. There was a lot of overlap among those things as we were growing up and continuing through today. And like I said, Julie and I had worked on Billy on the Street for years. She kind of became my right-hand creative person on that show in certain regard. And we just, we really make each other laugh. We really trust each other. It's very rare that Julie thinks something is hilarious that I don't get. And so doesn't mean that we agree on everything, but we certainly have a shared mutual respect and a shared comic sensibility, and that definitely helps.
You and Klausner are both comedians, and the characters you play on Difficult People are struggling comedians. So how close to the characters to who you really are in real life, the two of you?
I think the root of the show is inspired by the fact that Julie and I love to banter with each other in real life, and that we are friends, and that we love to talk about pop culture, the minutia of the entertainment industry, things that might seem obscure to other people seem like completely obvious topics for us to talk about at any given moment. And I think the way that the characters communicate, the types of jokes they make to each other, are similar to jokes that Julie and Billy in real life make. I think beyond that, the characters, there isn't really as much overlap as you would think. And clearly, the characters in the show, I mean, I'm still like a struggling waiter on Difficult People who hates his job and hates the people he works with, his day job, essentially can't seem to catch a break with dating or career or anything, isn't particularly proactive, makes all the wrong choices. And I think the main difference is he really, to comedic effect, him and the Julie in the show both really lack self-awareness. And that's not something that we share. I think Julie and I are very self-aware, maybe to a fault. And these characters are not, and that's what makes them so ridiculous.
The banter you have, the interplay you two have, from what I understand, a lot of that is improvised. So, what degree, to what degree is the show improvised versus scripted?
I'd say it depends on the scene. I think outside of scenes that are just me and Julie, the show is 99% scripted. Julie has given me free rein to improvise. When it makes sense to, and when the two of us get together, we can't really help but banter. But the truth of the matter is, outside of those scenes, it's a very scripted show, and I think we're very comfortable with each other. And I come from an acting background, actually, more than a comedic background. If you want to go back farther than what people know of me on YouTube and Billy on the Street, and I use those, whatever I was taught, as an acting student years ago to make it seem like, it's all very spur of the moment. But in fact, a lot of it is scripted.
And some of the most, one of the most interesting dynamics on the show, other than, you and Julie, of course, is you and Matthew, who is the coworker, who you mutually despise. What's that dynamic like to play that out?
Matthew's played by Cole Escola, who's hilarious, who's I've known for years. Julie and I are both big fans of Cole, and it's really fun. It's great to have someone who kind of tears me down, because Julie and I are always tearing other people down. That's the way that we get through the world, in a way. Like, that's our defense mechanism. We make fun of people who are more successful than us, people who we're jealous of, envious of. And so with Matthew's character, he's tearing me down and making fun of me, making me feel like I'm victimized in a way. And I give it back to him, of course, but I think it evens everything out in a way. That the show is not just about Julie and I, tearing everyone apart and not getting punished. We're always getting punished. We're always getting torn apart ourselves by everyone around us. And so it equals the playing field a little bit. And it's just fun. It's fun to have a nemesis of sorts.
Yeah, having that foil definitely, gives that balance where we can sort of, we sympathize more with, Billy Epstein in those moments, and root for him, and instead of seeing him, make fun of celebrities and everyone around them. Is that a conscious idea, to always walk a line on the show where these characters are often behaving badly and selfishly, but to still root for them and love them in a way?
Yeah, I think if you really watch Difficult People, if you really watch all the episodes, I think there's a lot of vulnerability there as well in our characters. I have an awkward, Fred Armisen plays my brother. We have a very essentially loving but awkward relationship. We're very different people. My family doesn't understand me. My father's passed away. I can't find a boyfriend. I can't really connect to anyone. And we deal with that even more in the second season that's coming up. A lot of my storyline in the second season involves like this sort of desperate late 30s, late 30s in terms of my age, not the era. Like late 30s desperate search for love, and like the age of apps and Tinder and Grindr and all of these things. And much more so even than show business aspirations. That becomes a big part of my story. And I think that if you watch more than just little clips that you see online, which tend to be sort of the louder, more abrasive moments that they use to sort of, break through the clutter of content these days. If you're really watching the show, you see that I do have those moments, that Julie has those moments with her mother. She has a very tortured relationship with her mother, played by Andrea Martin. And I think if you really get the show, you understand that these are very broken people inside, and they happen to be funny and sharp when it comes to making fun of other people, but they really they're searching themselves really for some sort of emotional connection to something.
Yeah, the quick banter, and the pop culture references, between, you and Julie on the show, it kind of reminds me of, sort of if the Gilmore Girls were cynical, jaded New Yorkers, and I can't help but imagine if Billy Epstein would survive in Stars Hollow.
I don't think he would want to try. No offense to Gilmore Girls, I think Gilmore Girls is the exact environment that Billy and Julie would just run in the other direction. I don't know if Billy and Julie can really function well outside of Manhattan. They don't even like going to Brooklyn. On the show we always talk about how much we don't want to go to Brooklyn, or Queens, or anywhere else besides our little 3-mile radius downtown Manhattan, or the theater district.
This past season, was also the fourth season of Billy on the Street, and it's interesting. It seems like a much different prism through which to view New York, compared to Difficult People. What's it like having that, set those two very distinct points of view, playing out sort of, in the same year?
It's great. They're very, very different shows. Yes, both are sort of reference heavy with pop culture references. But Billy on the Street is really much more of a sketch show, really. And I think what we've done on Billy on the Street is really, not to toot my own horn, but someone's got to toot it. We've really combined sketch and pop culture commentary, and even more so, more increasingly social commentary with this sort of absurdist game show format as well. And, Billy on the Street is essentially almost like a live action cartoon. It's this absurdist, surreal take on pop culture obsession, as viewed through my bizarre prism, like my weird perspective. Difficult People is, in a way, more traditional, and I'm playing a character, a three-dimensional character. It's a scripted show. It's a narrative show. I have a family. There's context for my character. There's a family. There are people he's dating. There's his best friend. There's career. There's survival job. Parents. It's a more fleshed out traditional narrative show. Billy on the Street is kind of like a genre unto itself, and I'm very proud of that show. It really comes from somewhere deep within an absurdist part of my imagination, and is really inspired by this sort of lifelong obsession with the entertainment industry, and a love-hate affair with everything good and bad about it. So yeah.
The season of Billy on the Street was the first season of the show on True TV. Did that switch change anything in terms of the process of making the show, or did it anything? Was it just a really seamless transition?
It was surprisingly seamless. True TV, and we're part of the Turner family with Billy on the Street. It's on True TV. It also airs on TBS. So we have some increased resources. Like, we were able to do big scripted segments this year. In addition to the stuff on the street, we did my version of the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, which includes like gigantic Macy's like balloons of actresses that I care about. So instead of Snoopy, it was like Rooney Mara and Maggie Gyllenhaal, and we had these huge balloons made and floats, and me and Katie Couric are in that. That's a completely scripted sketch. That's something that we probably would not have been able to do in the past. We built these huge obstacle courses, one based on Shondaland, Shonda Rhimes' production company, and her whole career trajectory. We did an obstacle course called Leah Remini's Escape from Scientology, where we built the huge Dianetics volcano from the cover of the Dianetics book. So we were given more resources, and I also think that luckily we had built up some goodwill over the years leading up to our move to True TV, and with that came some creative leverage and just a trust that at this point I knew what I was doing. And everyone at the network and at the production company, Funny or Die, really rallied around my vision for the show in a really wonderful, gratifying way. And so I think that it was a seamless transition, but the show was able to grow. We had incredible celebrity guests. The show is more high profile because it's on two networks as opposed to one, and both are bigger than our previous network in terms of viewers and all of that. The videos do very well online, and we had Tina Fey and Chris Pratt and Julianne Moore and just Sarah Jessica Parker, just an astounding array of people joining me on the street. So Billy on the Street has had an unusual and very lovely trajectory where some things come out hard real fast out of the gate and peak early and then struggle to maintain relevance and creativity. But we've grown every year. We've grown seemingly exponentially, and it's great. What can I say? It's great.
And the guest stars, in particular, the one that stuck out to me this season was Julianne Moore. Just having her act at people spontaneously and not just do it, but do it incredibly well. Like, I was kind of stunned that just at the drop of a dime, she's a character from Magnolia. She's, the kids are all right. It's all there. And how did that come together? Were you as kind of marveling at it as I was watching it?
Yeah, as it went on, I thought it really kind of took my breath away, certain parts of it, because she's one of the great actresses. And so to be, inches from her recreating these monologues, some of her greatest performances, and really sort of tearing into them. And I did, not that Julianne Moore needs me to give her a note, but that sketch was an idea that I came up with, that I pitched to Julianne. I knew she was a fan of the show, and I knew it might take a little convincing to get her to Times Square. That's asking a lot of someone, in addition to the acting I was asking her to do. But she liked the idea, and I did tell her at the beginning, I said, the more seriously you take this, the better it will be. Like, don't rush through these monologues because I talk fast or because you think that's the pace of Billy on the Street, which it usually is very fast paced. But in this case, I knew that the more earnest it was, the funnier it would be and the more interesting it would be. And she knocked it out of the park. And I love that segment so much because it's also sort of my own commentary. Like, we had her competing against all those fake Elmos and Spider-Man, like all those guys in Times Square dressed up as all of these famous superheroes and things, trying to get tourists to take their picture. And then we threw Julianne Moore into the middle of it as if she was trying to get tips for acting from tourists instead of these fake Elmos. And that was my way of saying that, to me, Julianne Moore, a real actress like that, a great actress, she's like my superhero. Like, she's my Spider-Man. Like, the whole world is obsessed with Star Wars and Spider-Man and the Suicide Squad, and I don't really give a shit about that. Like, I like Julianne Moore. Like, that's what I appreciate. That's what turns me into a fanboy. So, she's like my Comic-Con. And so that's what I was trying to say with that. And she's amazing.
As a New Yorker myself, and I'm sure a lot of New Yorkers feel that way, the idea of approaching strangers in public kind of gives me hives. But on this show, you managed to do it, with celebrities and in a chipmunk suit, in a onesie. Have there ever been a bit or an idea that, when actually trying to do it, made you especially nervous?
That made me nervous. Sometimes we have these amazing celebrity guests on the show now. So when you have someone like Tina Fey or Julianne Moore, or we did a segment with the First Lady this year, Michelle Obama. I did a segment with David Letterman. People that I really revere, and people who at that level of stature and importance and acclaim, and talent. I don't fear people on the street. I've gotten very used to that. But what I want to make sure is that Tina Fey has a good time, that she thinks what I'm doing is worthy of her presence, that it's as smart as something she would do, and still keeping true to Billy on the Street and the show. But, I want them to feel like it lives up to their level, that it lives up to the hype. In a way, like they're doing the show for a reason because they saw another segment that they liked. And so I worry, like Julianne Moore, Julianne Moore won the Oscar like a month before she shot with me. And I just thought, this better be good. Like, I cannot let Julianne Moore down. I cannot let Sarah Jessica Parker down. I cannot let Chris Pratt, like Bill Hader, like these are, sometimes they're friends or acquaintances, but more to me that they're really, really talented people who are very busy and setting aside time to shoot with me in the street. It's hot, it's cold. It's not like an easy talk show appearance that comes and goes in 10 minutes. And so it's asking a lot of them. And I really work hard with our writers to come up with ideas that I think that they'll have a good time doing, but that also are smart and different and things that they wouldn't do on another show. So my fear isn't about the people on the street, but it is about living up to the expectations of the guests that we now have.
And New York City is such a diverse place in terms of, just from neighborhood to neighborhood is different. Are there any particular neighborhoods in the city that are, are tougher crowds than other cities? More people will talk to you or less people will talk to you?
At this point, we're in the middle of now of shooting our 5th season now, which will air later this year. So, and even before the TV show, I was doing the videos online for years and in my live shows in New York for years. And so we kind of have our neighborhoods that we go to. We have figured out where we're welcome and where you will get good reactions from people. You want an eclectic neighborhood. You want it to be busy, but not too busy. You can't really film at rush hour in Midtown because it's just too much traffic. People will run over you. So we have our neighborhoods that we like to go to, and then neighborhoods we know to expect a little less from. Doesn't mean we won't ever go there, but we kind of know that we might not get as much that day as we would if we had gone to one of our sort of go-to areas. We love Chelsea. We love the West Village. Downtown in general, we love. If it's bad weather, Times Square can be good because people will always be in Times Square, even in a snowstorm. I like to go to the Upper West Side. I like the Theater District. You get a real certain type of New Yorker there. Lincoln Center around there. We tend to stay away from Wall Street. People are a little bit uptight, a little busy. Upper East Side, it's a little old, a little quiet. And one of the things I love about the show still is that it's really, you get a real true sense of the diversity of New York City. You talk about diversity on TV, and that's a big talking point now. Well, there's always been so much diversity on Billy on the Street, and the fan base of the show is shockingly eclectic, because I think hopefully it's because people think it's funny, but I also think on some level it's because everyone is represented on Billy on the Street, because that's New York. We don't cast these people ahead of time. We go out and we shoot. And if you go out and shoot on 23rd Street for an hour, you're going to find every type of person: young, old, gay, straight, black, white, Asian, Indian, tourists, New Yorkers, people new to New York, people who've been there for 70 years, everything, ex-cons, drug addicts, missionaries. I mean, it's like everything. And every day we are hitting all of those people, face to face with ridiculous questions and games and things. And so I think that's a big part of the success of the show, actually.
Without giving too much away, is there anything you can tell us about what's coming up next in the upcoming season of Billy on the Street?
No, I can't. We just started filming a few weeks ago, so I don't even know myself yet. We always try to challenge ourselves with that show. We always try to go bigger and smarter and funnier and more surprising. And there are high expectations for Billy on the Street at this point. And so we're always working hard to sort of be one step ahead of what people think we might do. We have an incredible lineup of guests coming together. And a lot of, this year in particular, it seems we have a lot of comedy stars. A lot of bros, a lot of comedy bros joining me on the street at last. I've had a lot of wonderful actresses that I love on the show. So now, we're sort of switching it up a bit, and not that we won't have actresses, of course we will, but it's a really great lineup. And I think people are going to be very excited when they find out who's doing it. But we're just getting started, so.
I want to congratulate you again on Billy on the Street and Difficult People, which, the season premiere is the second season is starting up again in July. So thank you very much for talking to me tonight.
Thank you very much. All right. Have a good one.